Hello, everyone. We are live. Good evening. Today I'm going to talk to Tega Edwin. She's also a career coach. Let me just quickly get her on. She also to speak to her tonight. Okay, I think she's joined. Hello, good evening. Good
Hi.
morning for you.
It's afternoon here, but
Afternoon,
evening,
yes.
same. How are you?
Oh, yeah, good. Really
My volume
excited
up.
to speak to you today.
Yes, same here. Sorry, I just want to turn my volume up. I just realized it was low in my earbuds. How are you?
Yes. Yeah, good. I thought we could maybe just start with you introducing yourself to my audience.
Okay, yeah, and then you can introduce yourself to
Yes,
my audience.
perfect.
Awesome. Well, hello everyone in Christy's audience. I'm Dr. Tega Edwin. I'm a career counselor and coach, and I primarily work with women who are feeling unhappy in their careers. They're not, thriving, they're not growing, but they have no idea what else they can do in their career. And so that makes them feel like they're stuck in a miserable job. And so really my goal is helping them really discover all the career options that are available to them and job search effectively to land a higher paying job that they're actually excited about. And I primarily work with women either in my group program or in my one-on-one coaching program. So that's me. How about you, Christy?
I really love that about you because I feel like a lot of other career coaches, they're really more about nailing the job
Mm-hmm.
and getting the interview and getting the salary
Absolutely.
raise and all that stuff.
Yep.
But that's
Yep.
just part of the process. I
Yeah.
mean, you need to first go on the journey of self-discovery and really find out who am I truly behind all the
Mm-hmm.
masks I wear, behind
Mm-hmm.
the people pleasing and trying to fit into society and all those things. And what do I really want? What am I passionate about? What are my
Mm-hmm.
talents? What are my strengths? So I love that you do that because I haven't found many career coaches that really go in depth in that. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why I really wanted to speak to you today. And
Yeah.
exactly that's what I also do. So a lot of women, they come to me because they feel stuck in their career. They feel very unfulfilled and they really
Mm-hmm.
want just to find something more meaningful. They want to give back to society. They want to be excited about their job again.
Yeah.
But the problem is what? Because the whole life they've been doing
Right.
a certain thing, so they have no clue what
Exactly.
else there's out for them. And
Mm-hmm.
that's we also go on that journey of self-discovery.
Yeah, totally. And I agree with what you said about the other coaches piece because I've had so many clients who have come to me and they'll tell me they have already worked with a coach where they've done their resume, they've done their LinkedIn, but they still are unhappy or they told them to do the same jobs. And it's like you can't skip past that self-discovery part of things. Otherwise, you'll just end up in what I call the bad job cycle, where it's like you get into a job and you hate it, and you get another job and you hate it. So totally.
And I'm quite curious now
Mhm.
about your story because did you become a career coach because of your own unhappiness in your career, or is it
It's
something
so
completely different?
It's so interesting because it's a little bit of both, sort of like, so no, let me, no, I became a counselor because of my own unhappiness. So I'm Nigerian. And so growing up, it's like real jobs were, doctor, lawyer, engineer. And even though in my family, with my parents, there was never any pressure to do something specifically, I still heard it in society, right? Like what real jobs are. So I decided when I was like 12 that I was going to be a doctor. And I just
Wow.
stuck to that forever. Like I'm going to be a pediatrician all the way through college. I majored in biology. And you know what? When I look back, the writing was on the wall because I never passed a single biology class. All that to say that medicine was, I failed the MCAT. It was not for me. But I did for about a year. I did this healthcare research job where I was like in this tiny cubicle office
Mm.
and I was entering like data for lung cancer, like we were doing psychological research on lung cancer patients. But that was the phase where I was super unhappy. Like I was coming into this tiny office and I would just sit and enter data like it was rote.
Mm.
I was miserable. I didn't feel like I was living on purpose. I didn't feel passionate about my work. I didn't feel like I was making a difference. When I looked around, it felt like everybody else around me knew what they were doing. Like
Mm.
people were thriving and doing well in their careers. And so I just decided something has got to change. Like I need to not be miserable. Like one of my philosophies, I'm like, God did not create me to be miserable. And so if I'm miserable every day, something's
Mm.
wrong. And so I actually ended up taking a year off. I went back home to Nigeria. And like my brain just said, you know what? If I'm going to find work that I actually enjoy, it has to match who I am, which means I need to first figure out who I am to know what kind of work I enjoy. So that was my journey. And that journey actually led me to being a school counselor. So I realized back then, it's like I have a passion for kids. I love working with kids. I want to be where kids are most and help them develop. But I was adamant. I was like, I don't want to be a teacher, which is so ironic because I'm a professor now. But back then I was like, I don't want to be a teacher. So counseling was what made sense. And so I worked as a school counselor. That was my intro into counseling. And so since then, I worked as a school counselor, I worked as a mental health counselor. And then while I was getting my PhD, I worked as a career counselor. So that was my introduction to the career space, was working as a career counselor and doing career work for about a year and a half, 2 years. And then when I was done with my PhD and I transitioned into being a professor, I missed that work. I really missed working with clients, helping them figure out their careers, helping them do the job search. And that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to start my own thing and I'm going to go the career coaching route. And so that was like the journey that then led me to career coaching.
Interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
see, and I think a lot of us, we do end up becoming a coach or a career coach because of our own story, our own
Hmm.
struggles. And we
Yeah.
know what it's like to
Yeah.
be so stuck and feel so unfulfilled and unhappy. And therefore, when we finally sort of cracked the code, then we're
Hmm.
like, we just want to help
We
as
want to
many
share with
people.
everybody. Yeah. What's your story, Christy? I don't think I've heard your story before.
Yeah, so similar. I was, I did my studies because my parents told me to do that study. And then when I was finished doing
Mm,
the study, I was like, okay, what am I going to do now? So then I thought, oh, let me just do a master's degree because it will give me more
mm,
time. And
mhm,
then I, thought I want to climb the corporate ladder, the certain career type, because that's going to land me one day this dream job. So
right.
I was doing everything to build up my CV. So I was in all these committees and doing all these things that I didn't like doing at all, but I thought, but
Yeah.
it'll be good for later, good for my network, good for
Mhm,
my contacts. So completely ignoring my intuition, completely ignoring what I really wanted. Well, I never really thought about that, but just
mhm,
completely doing everything according to the book just to get that certain title.
mhm,
And then,
mhm,
I really realized one day I woke up like I'm living someone else's dream. I got shingles, I got very sick. I got fired. So then I really hit rock bottom. Like,
mhm,
what am I going to do with my life now? And then I started this journey of soul searching and discovering who I really was, and
mhm.
doing like the meditation, the yoga, and instead of being with people all the time, going for walks alone to really start to figure out who am I
Yeah.
really, because I actually had no clue.
Mhm,
And through that journey, eventually I started. I mean, it took a while because I first thought I have to just find this out by myself.
mhm.
And only later on I found out, about I didn't even know that the coaching industry, I didn't
Yeah.
even know that coaching existed. So
Yeah.
it's crazy. Like it opened my eyes,
Mhm,
like, wow, okay.
mhm,
And then I realized how much coaching helped me and how much I
mhm,
enjoyed it and talking about all these things that I was like, oh, I have to do this
mhm.
myself. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's how it started.
Yeah. You said something that I often say is like, when you were doing that soul searching, you were like, who am I really? I don't even know who I am. And I think a lot of people don't realize how much they're out of touch with who they
Mm,
are until they get to a point like where you were. Because I always say it's not about, what's your favorite color? What do you like to do in your free time? You really have to know like what matters to you. What are you interested in?
mm,
What skills do you want to use? And so I think it was just great to hear you say that because I think that sometimes when I say that idea of you have to know who you are, it can sound fluffy. Like, what do you mean by know who? I just want a job. I just want people say, no, no.
mm.
If you're saying you want to be fulfilled in your career, you have to know who you are. If you don't, you're going to end up doing things like you were saying that it's somebody else's dream, somebody else's life, which just then leaves you feeling really unhappy. So I think that was a really great point that you brought up.
I mean, even like things like what are your values? What are your non-negotiables? Like those type
Hmm.
of things. I would have never
They really
thought of
matter.
that. And now I'm like, okay, now it all makes sense. Like as if all the puzzle pieces.
Hmm.
And also that's exactly what I do in my coaching program. Like everything that has helped me to figure this stuff out, whether it's worksheets, exercises, book,
Hmm.
like I do that all with my clients because I know that
Hmm.
that's how you get to the answers.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I have a question for you because I think a lot of women, some people don't know that they're really stuck. They might just be
Mm-hmm.
thinking that maybe they're just going through a rough patch,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's just something temporary. So, in your experience, how can someone tell, if they're really stuck
Hmm.
in a job that no longer serves them and that they should maybe. look for something different.
Look for something else. Yeah, absolutely. And I love that word stuck. Not love it in the sense of it's good, but people use it to describe the situation so much. Like someone's like, I just feel so stuck. And it's like, you're not a tree. You're not stuck. You can move, but that's how your brain sort of categorizes it. And so it's interesting you say that because I'm actually doing a free training on Saturday, and I sat down to really think, okay, what does it mean to be stuck? Like how do you know when you are in a job that's draining you, that's making, what does a miserable job look like? And I actually came up with an acronym. So stuck actually means something in my world now.
Mm.
And these are like the signs for how you know when you're miserable at work. And the S is that you're stressed and you're drained. So when the job is stressing you out, it's draining you. You're coming home every day with no energy. Some of my clients have described it as, you just want to lay on the couch and veg out because you have spent all your energy trying to survive at work. So when you're feeling constantly drained energetically, that's, a sign that maybe you're stuck. If the job you're in is toxic and misaligned, so whether it's a micromanaging boss or you're experiencing microaggressions, backbiting, really late deadlines, or you're overworked, overloaded, and you don't have the support to actually do your work well, that I think is another sign.
Mhm.
Another very clear one is just you're underpaid and undervalued. So you don't feel like the salary you're being compensated matches the amount of work and effort that you're giving the organization, and you're not getting recognized for your work. There's no kudos. There's no recognition. There's no opportunities for people to just kind of highlight you, and then you're closed off from growth. So if you notice, like you look at your career and you're thinking, you know what, in the past 3 years, in the past 4 years, I haven't advanced. I haven't gotten new projects. I haven't gotten a promotion. I haven't gotten a raise. I'm not learning new skills. I'm not developing. I'm not growing. I'm just sort of stagnant. That's a source. And what I've seen is ultimately all of that then keeps you doubting yourself. So you find that now you're wondering, am I as skilled as I thought I was? Am I as smart as I thought I was? Am I as good as I thought I was? Like you're questioning yourself. That's a sign. And usually the thing that then keeps you in place is you just don't know what else you can do. Like you're feeling all these things, but your brain keeps telling you, well, you can't do anything else because this is all you've
Mm.
ever done. And so you feel like you can't move. And those are some of the key signs that I have seen for when you're really feeling stuck in a job that's draining
Yeah,
you.
and I think that if you indeed don't know what else you can do, like you don't know really what your skills or your transferable skills or what you're really good at, then indeed you're not going to
Mm-hmm.
take any action because,
Yeah.
yeah, what else, And what
Mm-hmm.
I also see a lot of women that they also just don't feel seen, heard, or understood by
Mm-hmm.
their managers. Like that's also one thing that really starts to drain them.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
Yeah.
just not being able. I think we're like trees and plants. Like you want to grow,
Mm-hmm.
evolve, develop. You want
Mm-hmm.
to, otherwise you
Blossom.
like shrivel up and die kind of thing. So you want
Yeah.
to be able to do new things. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like a lot of people have been in their career for, I don't know, say 6 years,
Mm-hmm.
in any case more than 2 years. Then the first 2 years is very interesting and you're learning a lot. And then the rest of the time it's not really getting new experience. It's just like
Mm-hmm.
repeating the same thing
Mm-hmm.
over and over again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not very motivating or
Mm-hmm.
challenging at all.
Mm-hmm. I have a question for you because I know remember when you were talking about your story, you talked about how you had been growing, sort of like you had been climbing this ladder that was somebody else's ladder. And ultimately, the thing that caused you to leave was that you said you were fired, right? So I'm curious, how many years, like how long were you unhappy? And do you think you would have stayed if they didn't let you go?
Um, Yeah, that's a very good question. I was not happy in my career, oof, probably about 10 years.
Mm.
And to be very honest, if they didn't fire me, I probably would have stayed because I was
Mm.
just happy to have a job.
Yeah.
I was just very, whenever somebody offered me a job, I was just like, oh, okay, I have a job, so
Mm-hmm.
I'll just do it. Even though I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
happy, at least I had a job and I was working towards something and I had
Mm-hmm.
no clue what else to do.
Yeah.
So, in hindsight, what was at that moment the worst thing that could happen to me, I was like on the street and I don't know what to do. And
Mm-hmm.
now I'm like, oh, if that didn't happen, then this wouldn't have happened, and this wouldn't have happened, then I wouldn't be
Exactly.
here where I am today. So
Mm-hmm.
it's crazy if you think about it.
Yeah. It's like, all things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
But so yeah, thanks for sharing.
And with your clients, what do you feel like are the biggest fears or limiting beliefs that are holding them back to make that career change? And
Mm-hmm.
just in general for women listening right now, how can they start
Mm-hmm.
to maybe overcome, maybe some small steps to overcome these fears
Yeah.
and limiting
Yeah.
beliefs.
Yeah. There are definitely a lot of fears, but the main ones I hear over and over is the fear of taking a pay cut. So usually when, especially for the women who, while they hate their job, this is the job that has paid them the most they've ever
Yeah.
seen. The idea of changing feels scary because it's like, I don't want to lose the salary. I have bills to pay. I have responsibilities. I've had clients who are the primary providers in their family. And so it's like, I have kids. I'm contributing to the family finances. I can't afford to lose this paycheck. So that fear of taking a pay cut is a big one. Another one is a fear of starting over. So just like you, a lot of my clients on average have been in their careers for at least 8 years. That's the
Yeah.
average. I've had clients 15 years, 20 years, they've been unhappy. And one fear that always kept them in place was the idea that, I've been here for so long that if I go and do something else, I will be starting over. I would have to start from the bottom. I will have to, get a degree, get a certificate, get new skills. And so that really feels like it would be a waste of all the time they have put into their careers up until that point.
Mm.
And so those are the two main ones that I always hear. I think everything else falls under there somewhere. Whether it's fear of the unknown, fear of not being good enough at the new job, fear of hating the new job, fear of making a change and it sucks, right? Like I think it all falls into those two big buckets.
Yeah.
And then to the second half of your question, what do you do to kind of start moving forward? One thing that I think a lot of people miss is that the only thing that gets rid of fear is action. Like I find that a lot of women, they're feeling fear, and so they sit and they're trying to like journal and reflect and what should I do, and then write down all these thoughts, and they think the answer is going to come to them in their head, and then they'll make a move, and then they'll do something. But what you have to realize is physiologically, fear is literally just your brain warning you that something dangerous is on the other side. That's all fear is. You don't have context for if this thing is safe, and so it scares you. And so until you actually do the thing and get on the other side and prove to yourself that it is safe, you're going to keep feeling fear. So that's why I always feel it's like you have to take action at some point because the fear is not going to go anywhere until you have made a move and shown yourself that, oh, I did that. I'm safe. I still have a job. I can still pay my bills. I can thrive in a new job. And so you have to take action. I always tell my clients it's the ABCs. Action breeds clarity. Until you take action, you're not going to have the data that you need to actually then take a next step or make more decisions. And so what is the small action you need to take? Whether is it hiring a coach, right? Whether it's like working with someone like you or me, or is it talking to your manager about new responsibilities? Is it intentionally searching for roles, not that doom scrolling on LinkedIn at 2 a.m. because that doesn't get you anywhere, but like taking actual action, something that can prove to yourself that you will be safe making that change. I think that would be the first step that I would always recommend.
Yeah, and I think, what I also see with clients, like, okay, maybe in the beginning they do take a pay cut,
Mm,
but because they're
mm,
doing something they're actually passionate about and actually enjoy
mm,
doing, they will get the salary raise much quicker. They will get a promotion much quicker. So,
mm-hmm.
you might be here, you go here, but then you go like there.
Up.
So
Yeah.
don't be so afraid of that. And what I also think
Mm-hmm.
what really helped is if you're not sure, is that career something for me?
Mm-hmm.
Do research, ask
Mm-hmm.
people who are already in that job, like what do they like about the job? What don't they like about the job? What
Mm-hmm.
qualifications do you need? Can you maybe study something on the side? Can you maybe do an internship?
Yeah.
But talk to people. I think through
Mm-hmm.
talking, you get also so many answers. And just by sort of being busy with it and
Absolutely.
indeed taking the action, the fears, they
It
you
starts
get more
to dissipate a
confidence.
little bit. Yeah, yeah. And if you're right, informational interviews are gold. That's a key part of my program is you have to talk to people. Because not only does it, like you said, it's one thing to I think it's one thing to read about a job. It's something else entirely to talk to someone who's doing the job day in and day out. You get a whole new level of data that can help your decision making process. And also you're building your network when you're doing that, right? Like you're starting to build relationships that you don't know might and likely will serve you in the future when you're finally ready to actually make that transition. So yeah, totally right.
Yeah, they say your network is your
Net
net worth.
worth, yes.
And then, yeah, a lot of women, they really, don't know what they want. So maybe you have just some practical ways to gain like that clarity on what they
hmm
should be doing next.
hmm Yeah. The three things I always come back to, the three things you absolutely need to know if you're trying to figure out what's next: your values, your interests, your skills. The values you talked about a little bit. What are your non-negotiables? What are those things that they're just you can't compromise on them, and it differs, right? Whether is it diversity, is it family, is it financial growth, is it independence, autonomy? What matters to you when you think about work specifically? I think a place where people often get confused with this one is they're looking just at their life values, and your work is not going to fulfill all your life values, but there are some work values that you want to avoid them being violated, because if you're working in a company that's violating your values, you're 1000% going to be unhappy in that career.
Mm.
So that's the first one. And the next one is, what are you interested in? Like, what are those topics, those concepts, those ideas that just grab your attention? You can read about it, you'll watch YouTube videos about it, it lights you up when you learn about it. These are things that allow you to get into a state of flow.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, your skills. But I always talk specifically about your high power skills, meaning the skills you actually enjoy using. Because when you've been working in your career for any length of time, 8 years, 10 years, 12 years, you end up developing a lot of skills. But just because you're good at something doesn't mean you actually enjoy it. Sometimes you just become good at something
Yes.
because they made you do it at work, right? And so it's, you have to figure out which are the skills that when you use them, you actually feel good about yourself. You feel
Mm.
strong, you feel powerful, you feel confident. And those three things will always, always help you land on a clear direction, because your values tell you which industries and which companies you're going to thrive in. Your interests tell you which industries and which types of jobs will actually engage and motivate you. And your skills tell you which types of jobs you will actually thrive in and not get bored doing. So once you have clarity about those three things, it becomes so much easier for you to discover all the options that are available to you with the skills you already have. I think that's a big fear, is always, I don't want to go back to school, get another degree. I've been working for years. It's like, no, no, no. You have transferable skills that you can use now to advance
Mm.
your career. So that's usually the three-step process that I always tell people to go through if they're trying to decide, what do I do next? What's the next step for me?
I love how what you say that just because you're good at something doesn't mean that it makes you happy and that it gives you energy. I
Mm,
think that's been a real game changer for me and also my clients. And
mm,
also, I think a lot of people are just not aware of this. If you your
mm-hmm.
whole life have been doing something and people are telling you you're so good at doing that, and giving you a
Yeah.
tap on the shoulder
Mm-hmm.
and good job, you know?
Thumbs up. And then you just keep doing it. You keep doing it. You keep getting. And that's the thing. It's like, you can just, the way life works, the more you do something, the better you get at it, right? Whether for good or for bad, it doesn't matter what it is. So yeah, it's like they tell you good job, so you keep doing it and you get better at it, but you realize you hate it, but you keep getting better at it. It's like we need to break out of that cycle.
Yeah. So, and then another thing, what I also find interesting about also with me is like, if you just look through your house, it gives
Mm.
you so many clues.
Yeah.
So also what, you enjoyed doing as a child. So for example, in my house, this was even before I was even thinking about it. I had
Mm-hmm.
so many books, psychology books and
Mm-hmm.
books about personal growth and those type of things.
Mm-hmm.
And in my free time, I was always watching those type of documentaries. When I was younger, I always wanted to be a TV presenter.
Really?
And again, very young, I wanted to be an actress. So that
Oh,
was really
see,
from the beginning. So,
I wanted to be a dancer and a model.
oh,
Neither of
really?
those worked.
Well,
Yeah.
look at you. You look very fashionable.
Thank you.
So that just
Oh.
shows, that's why what I love what I'm doing now is that I'm doing all little things that I
Mm-hmm.
enjoy, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
like doing these type of lives, that would be like the TV career kind of things.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Then the creativity, I mean, super creative, having starting your own
Oh
company.
my gosh.
Um, yeah, the
Yes.
psychology, helping people with their mindset. So it's
Mm-hmm.
interesting if you start looking at, in your life, like what you enjoy talking about,
Mm-hmm.
what your hobbies, to see, okay, can that give me clues
Yeah.
as to what I maybe want to do later?
Yeah. Yeah. And to that point, I've even found in my work with my clients, and I say that it's like, look at your personal life. What did you do in college and school? Because I think oftentimes society conditions us out of the things that we used to be interested in and passionate about, right? Like the things we loved as a kid, we get told, oh, that you can't make money doing that, or it's
Mhm.
not a real job, depending on what it is. But if you look back as well, those are context clues. You can use those, like you said, to help you figure out, okay, what kinds of jobs exist that will still allow me to tap into those passions, those interests that I used to have. So yeah, absolutely.
And I think then you like open a Pandora box, because a lot of times if you haven't even thought about that or discovered that, then it's not there. But once you start to
Hmm.
actually, you're gonna be like, oh, but I could do this thing or this job, or
Hmm.
with these transferable skills, I can do this. Like, I never even thought that that would be possible.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so much to
Exactly.
discover. And then, taking that leap into a
Mm.
new career can feel very overwhelming. I mean, if
Hmm.
they always say take the first, don't look at the whole staircase, but what small but powerful steps can women take to start moving towards more meaningful work? Because I
Mm.
think that's what also stops people from even trying, because they think it's going to be just it's too far. It's the dream is
Hmm.
too big. It's too far
Hmm.
away.
Hmm. I think for me, I would say the smallest step that will be the most effective is to work with a career coach. I like it's like and I know like me saying that as a career coach can sound like, oh yeah, you just want to make money, clients, right? But I think of so many women I work with. I remember, okay, specifically, let me tell you, I had this client last year. She used to commute 1 hour to work. So she would talk about how she was commuting 2 hours both ways every day, or maybe it was 2 hours to work, so 4 hours total. So she was missing time with her kids. So when she got home, she was tired. First of all, it was a job she didn't like. She got home, she was tired, and she just had to use the little energy she had to spend some time with her kids, put them to bed. So she talked to me about how she just did not have the energy to try to figure it out. So to try to think about what job am I going to do? How do I find a job? She did not have the energy
Mm.
for it. I think a lot of times we underestimate how much a miserable job sucks the energy out of you. And so when you work with a coach like me and you, it's like all you have to do is show up and somebody else is telling you the steps to take. Like that is your first step, is just decide, I want something to change, so I'm going to invest in somebody else who has the steps. And then they can tell you whatever their process is, whether it's your process, my process. There's so many coaches out there. As long as, like we talked at the beginning, right, it's someone who helps you actually do the discovery work, not just the job search, because then you end up in another bad job, right? Then somebody else can tell you, here, okay, show up, do this, do this. And they just keep like placing the steps for you. And all you have to do is follow it. And what you find is at some point in the journey, the clarity you're getting now energizes you to where you can now step in and take ownership. You can now start being a bigger part of the process and feeling like you're driving it a little bit. But it's so like in the past, I honestly, if you had asked me this last year, I would have said, do some journaling and get clarity. But I'm like, no, you can get clarity and still be stuck. If you are committed to change, make an investment. Work with somebody who can tell you the steps to take so that you're not wasting all that brain energy trying to figure things out yourself. Because that's how you look up in a year and you're like, wait, I am still in this job.
Yeah.
Just invest in somebody who can speed up the timeline for you.
Sometimes you just need an accountability partner, somebody to kick your
Hmm.
ass and be like, okay, let's take action now, let's
Like,
do something.
what are you doing? Somebody's like, you haven't shown up, but you haven't taken action. Are you still searching? Like, let's go. Yes,
Because I
absolutely.
think that's what I do see happen, that these women, then if I had a discovery call with someone and then they say, no, I just want to figure it out still by myself, then, I'll look at their LinkedIn page like a few months later, well, they're still at the
Still
same
in the
job.
same
So
job.
I don't know what you've been doing, but,
Yep. Yeah, I think
so
people
you don't have to invent the
underestimate.
wheel
Yeah.
twice, like go
Hmm.
ask for help.
Yeah.
And then I also love this, confidence. Like I love talking about confidence and getting out your
Mm.
comfort zone. And how do you
Hmm.
feel like what role does this play in career transitions? And how can women build that self-trust needed
Mm-hmm.
to make a change?
Yeah, confidence is such a big part of the transition, such a big, big part. And it comes back to work with a coach. A story, and this is why, so there's a story I love to tell of. So before I became a professor, right, when I was in my PhD, I thought I was just going to go back. At first, I thought I was going to go back to the schools and work as a district supervisor. Then at some point in my journey, I thought, you know what, no, I'm going to be a director of career services. And
Mm.
really, all of those were excuses because I did not think I could be successful as a professor. I did not think I could do the research, do the writing. I didn't think I had the skills. So I was thinking of my comfort zone, right? What could I go back to at just a smaller, higher level? And it wasn't until my mentor back then, my advisor, one day she read a paper of mine and she said, "You're a really good writer. Like you can do
Mm.
this." And she didn't know. She didn't know that I was doubting being a professor. She just said that to me from reading my work. My brain was like, "Oh, okay, maybe I can do this. Okay." And then so I moved on. I applied for a job. Now here I am. I've been working as a professor for 7 years. I got tenured. And I tell that story because sometimes I think you just need to borrow somebody else's confidence
Uh,
until your confidence kicks in. And I see that so much I have so many clients who will do the work and they'll want to apply for a job. And I'm like, you're overqualified for that job. Apply for something else. And they're scared at first. And then they get the job and they're like, I would have never applied for that on my own. And now that they're in it, they feel confident, they feel good about themselves. So sometimes you just need to borrow somebody else's confidence, because I think confidence also is like what I was saying about fear, at least in my experience. I don't feel confident in things I've never done before. I feel confident after I've done the thing, I was successful, even just a little bit. It's like, okay, I got this. I can do this. And I think it's the same where if somebody can just show you, hey, you have the skills to do this job. You look at all your accomplishments. Let's redo your resume. Look at all the things you've done. You are qualified. You're good enough. You can do this. That starts to boost your own confidence. And you're like, okay, maybe I can. And then you put yourself forward and then you're successful. And then the confidence keeps building from there.
I think that can really help by surrounding yourself with those people who've
Mhm.
already achieved what you want to achieve, or like, indeed like a coach who can really lift you up and tell you that it is possible, because they've also gone
Achieved.
through those type of
Mhm.
things, achieved the things that they thought they maybe couldn't. They've also had to get out of their comfort
Yep.
zone. I mean, starting your own
Yep.
business, hello. That's getting out your comfort zone.
It
So
is.
it is really, and I think it's what's also, first you need the
Mhm.
courage, then the confidence will grow. Also
Mhm.
make sure to not ask for advice for people who would never take risks, who would never do the things that you're thinking about, because
Yeah.
they will just put their fears onto
On
you
you.
and then
And talk you out of it.
and talk you out of it. So that's
Hmm.
scary.
Yeah,
Yeah, don't do that.
absolutely. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Don't do
And
that.
I'm curious, when you look at your own journey, because I think that's a great question about confidence, what gave you the confidence to make that transition?
um well, I kind of, it couldn't have gotten any worse at one point, because I was down in the dumps and
Yep.
feeling depressed, and I was just like,
Hmm.
I don't know what's gonna happen for my life. So it was like
Hmm.
I had to go somewhere, and then when I was very clear on what I wanted and
Hmm.
why, I
Hmm.
think that's also very important to know your why I want it. For me, there was kind of like no going back anymore. I was like, I've got nothing
Hmm.
to lose.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this. And I think there just came like sort of this lion inside of me
Inside you.
out that was just like, I'm just going to make this work. I don't know how, but I'm going to make it work. And I think, honestly, also for me, was really working with coaches
Mm.
who helped me, because of course self-doubt will start creeping in,
Hmm.
and having a soundboard and speaking to them to lift you up in those times, and to just keep learning, keep going. And yeah, I think I really did have to have the courage I had in the beginning. You just
Hmm.
grab the courage from somewhere, and then your
Absolutely.
confidence, it does really grow. Like if I compare myself to a couple of years ago,
Hmm.
like I've said this to someone else before, like that Chrissy doesn't even exist anymore. She's gone. She's
Wow.
dead. Like it's just, that sounds a bit horrible, but like,
But no,
like
it makes sense.
I've changed so
Hmm.
much in these past few years. Um, yeah, I
Yeah,
don't like, there's just no way going back now, I also feel.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that makes perfect sense.
And then I have one more question for you to wrap it up. Because, yeah, I can imagine some women watching now, watching the replay. They're like, you know what? This is me. They're talking about me. I'm stuck. I'm in the wrong job.
Hmm.
I need to make a move. Maybe
Hmm.
just one last piece of advice. Work with a coach. Maybe another piece of advice.
Right, we already talked about that one. Um, I think the last piece of advice I will give is it's going to be for a specific woman, okay? And it's specifically the woman who identifies as Christian. And that's because like that, I feel like that has been my mission this year, is to
Yes.
speak specifically to professional Christian women. And I've been saying this a lot in my content. And it's, you can't live in fear and faith at the same time. Like if your world, and that's why specifically, if that's your worldview is one of someone who loves Jesus, we are told in the Bible that without faith you can't please God. And a lot of times we've talked about the fears, right? The fear of taking a pay cut, fear of starting over, fear of not being good enough. All these fears are not going to go away. And so I think at some point you have to ask yourself, am I going to make fear-based decisions or faith-based decisions? Because if you're moving in fear, then you're just going to stay where you are. You're going to stay stuck. You're going to look up in 5 years and still be in that job and just feel like you're at rock bottom. at some point you just have to decide I'm going to move on faith, and faith is taking a move without seeing, like you said earlier, without seeing all the steps, right? It's just taking the next step. So just ask yourself, am I going to move in faith or fear? And I think once you answer that question, you'll know what to do next.
I think that's really beautiful. I'm
Mhm.
going to use that as well. Nice.
Yeah, yeah.
And then lastly, so I think you have a workshop coming up.
I do on Saturday, this Saturday, March 8th. I'm doing a free training where I'm going to be walking women through how to leave their miserable jobs without starting over or taking a pay cut. But if you just go to findyourfulfillingcareer.com, you'll see all the details about that training or my program, because depending on when you watch, if you watch the replay after March 8th, then the training would be done, but you'll still have access to FYFC. So findyourfulfillingcareer.com, or just go to my profile, click the link in my bio. Resources are always there. But I'm really excited about this training because I'm going to be sharing things I've never shared before, like strategies that I use to help my clients. And I'm looking forward to teaching that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm also offering something. The thing is, like, I don't feel like we're competition because people
Mm-hmm.
are either drawn to your energy or my energy. We're both
Absolutely.
on a mission just to help women find
Mm-hmm.
meaningful, fulfilling careers.
Yeah.
So that's why, I love doing these type of collaborations.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause, if one of my followers are like, I really like her, then go ahead, good luck, kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Or
So
vice versa. Absolutely. I think it's like there's so many women out there that need to be served. And
yeah,
also, like you said, the energy, the processes, like people just gel with other people's styles. So I totally
exactly.
agree with you. It's
It's just the
like
way
there's
life
an
works, right?
abundance. There's an
So
abundance out there.
yeah, so basically I have a ebook that you can download from
Mm-hmm.
my website, which also talks more in detail about the steps you need to take to find something more meaningful, more fulfilling and
Mm-hmm.
exciting
Mm-hmm.
in your career. So yeah,
Yes.
christywettrings.com or my link in bio.
Yes. I'm sure it's like you can
Right.
always find things in people's link in bio. Just go to the
I
link in
know, look at
bio.
the link in bio. I saw something there.
Yes, awesome.
Uh,
Well, what is your last piece of advice before we wrap up?
well, I always feel like I think, okay, maybe that's also something that helped me realizing that we're all gonna die one day. Life is
Mm-hmm.
short, so I feel like we just need to really not have a life with no regrets. Like really try get out of our comfort zone and try the
Mm-hmm.
things. I'd rather say that I've tried everything and that I maybe failed at some things, and have these what ifs. What if I would have done it? What if I would have tried? Um, so that, and failure is part of the process, and don't immediately give
Yes.
up when something didn't work out or someone said, I had like a client and two times someone said no in an interview, and then the third time is yes, and maybe for some people
Mm-hmm.
it's four times you hear no, but don't let that discourage you. Like
Yes.
no's and failure, it's part of the process. Just
Mm-hmm.
keep going.
Absolutely. That's a great piece of advice. Especially that fail. You know what? One thing I've realized, just a quick, you said that it jogged my memory. I think the reason why a lot of people are afraid of failure is because when they fail at something, they internalize
Mm.
it. So instead of it being, I failed at something, they're thinking, I am a failure. And so that's why they're so scared of learning from the process or trying and following is no, you failed at something else. It's not who you are. So
Mhm.
don't be afraid of it. Learn from it and just take a different action moving forward.
Yeah, it's really distance yourself from the feelings
Hmm.
also. And
Hmm.
one last thing,
Yes.
if you're
Yes.
able to feel all the feels, all the emotions, and process them, then you also become more powerful because
Hmm.
whatever comes on my path, I can handle it and I can process
Yes.
it, and eventually it will go away like
Absolutely.
right waves.
Ride the waves. Ride the waves. I love that.
Okay, thanks so much for joining me today. It was
For sure.
really, really
Thank you for
nice talking to
having
you.
me.
Ah, and have a wonderful day. And thanks everyone for watching, listening, and goodbye.
Thanks. Bye. Hi, Deb.
Bye.
Bye.